Good morning. It is time for the inspiration of the day, and today's inspiration is going to come from 2 Corinthians chapter 12. I'm going to read 7b down to verse 10. And Paul has a very interesting thought process going on here on why he feels like he was attacked. So let's just read it and then we'll talk about it. And so we'll start, and I'm reading from the NIV version. And so 7b goes, therefore, in order to keep me from becoming conceited, I was given a thorn in my flesh, a messenger of Satan to torment me. 3 times I pleaded with the Lord to take it away from me, but he said to me, my grace is sufficient for you. For my power is made perfect in weaknesses. Therefore, I will boast all the more gladly about my weaknesses, so that Christ's power may rest on me. That is why, for Christ's sake, I delight in weaknesses, in insults, in hardships, in persecution, in difficulties. For when I am weak, then I am strong. So this is Paul saying this. And so when we start off with therefore, in order to keep me from becoming conceited, therefore, because Paul was talking about all the wonderful and difficult things that he says, in verse 4, he talks about he was caught up to paradise and heard inexpressible things that no one is permitted to tell. So he's talking about his time in Patmos. Then he goes, I will boast about a man like that, but I will not boast about myself. So he might talk about it about somebody else. And this is something that we do. We will boast and give credit to somebody else, but sometimes we don't give it to ourselves. And it's because we don't want to be considered as conceited or puffed up in our minds. And it's not. We are actually giving accounts, or a person can actually be given an account of things that they have done, they've experienced. But when Paul says he doesn't boast about it, because then he feels like he was, so that he says, I do not, to keep me from becoming conceited, I was given a thorn in my flesh, a messenger from Satan to torment me. What I think torments us too is the fact that we honestly can't give ourselves credit, even to ourselves or to others, for the things that God has allowed us to experience without somebody thinking you're thinking too much of yourself. But Paul says, fine. So I won't talk about the positive things, but look, I will be able to boast because in my weakness, God says, then in him, I will be made strong. So Paul says, yes, torment me, come for me, insult me. It's okay. I can take it because I know that God is with me. But what happens when we are insulting ourselves? When we are not giving ourselves the acknowledgement that God has used us incredibly, because we don't want others to think more of ourselves than they ought. Sometimes we suffer from not thinking enough of ourselves than we should, because we should be able to say, I am doing a good work for the Lord, and it not come out as being a brag, or I've accomplished this, and with God's help, I've done this and I've attained this, and it not feel like I need to be punished for the achievement, because Paul has a great amount of achievements under his belt. He's written, a great part of the New Testament. He wrote while he was in jail. He wrote while he was being persecuted. What are you doing that you're not even acknowledging what you're doing because of God's grace and mercy and call on your life? Because it is really important that you at least be able to say, you're doing a good job. If nobody else says it to you, can you say it to yourself? Because I think that sometimes I encounter caregivers who are doing an amazing job, who are doing a great job, but won't acknowledge it because they don't want to feel like they're bragging about what they've done. But they also recognize that they could not have done it without the grace of God, that it was a selfless act that they did, but they don't even acknowledge it in themselves. And that actually does something to us, because we were made in the image and likeness of Christ. And he wants us to acknowledge the good and great works that we do for him and his kingdom. So if you've been plagued with a thorn in your side and you feel that God has done it so to keep you from boasting, guess what? Then you boast in the things that you've accomplished in his name for his glory. And you take that and you don't complain about it, but you take it and look at it. This is yet another opportunity for me to continually to give God praise for the things that I'm enduring, I'm coming through, I'm overcoming, because I can only do it through him. You guys have a great day. This, I think, is a kind of a good way to start off the new year, recognizing that we do great things, but that also that our trials and tribulations, we're still doing great things. You guys be blessed. Have a great weekend, guys. Bye.